You remember Pokemon Sun and Moon? Bet you remember this bitch. And this bitch. But that's not the focus of today's video. In fact, I'm here today to stand here and risk all of my credibility when I make the claim that Pokemon Sun and Moon is the best Pokemon game ever. And it might just be the best one to ever exist. But Pokemon Diamond and shut the fuck up. Daddy is speaking. That was so cringe, I'm sorry. Anyway, before I begin, this is semi-light-hearted and entirely my opinion. I know I rant a lot about shit, but I never want to come across as some kind of cringy, furry rant tuber. Now, Pokemon Sun and Moon came out in late 2016, it being the second last main series Pokemon game to come out on the 3DS. Now, in this discussion I will also be including Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which came out a year later. The key differences between the two games are storyline changes, new characters, and the major role Necrozma plays in Ultra Sun and Moon. Game Freak pulled a similar move with Black and White during the Nintendo DS era. Although Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are merely updated versions of Sun and Moon, they both stand out on their own in some way. I will emphasize on this point a bit later. In all four games you start off with Professor Kukui, the infamous Flasher, not that I'm complaining, welcoming you to the island Alola through what seems to be a Skype call. Of course, he forgets your name, gender, and what you look like, so you need to fill out all those things manually. You then get a cutscene of Lily running for her life, setting the stage for Usum's story. Now, speaking of story, Usum is a bit of a different breed. It's not simply just evil team exists, beat evil boss turns good. It's more nuanced than that. Team Skull isn't just there for the purpose of serving as the evil team, rather it is also a commentary on why gangs exist. People who are lonely, lost, or feel like failures are more prone to joining gangs to find community. This is quite obvious when it is said that Team Skull is made up of trainers who failed the island challenge, something that is important within their own culture. And the evil bosses have good motives, something a lot of previous bosses didn't have. One that pisses me off the most has to be Lysandre from X and Y. Dude just wanted a perfect world. That's it. Guzma and Luminyte, on the other hand, have so much motive and character. It's obvious that Guzma was abused as a kid. You don't have to dig much to confirm it. But that's why he created Team Skull and built this persona of violence around him. He didn't want to feel scared or small ever again. And when he does feel scared and small in the Ultra space, he loses his mind. His facade breaks. Luminyte lost her husband to the Ultra Wormholes. This made her obsess over them. The world on the other side became her world. Look at Lily. Now look at Neolego. Her mom dressed her like that. She was so obsessed that her mom dressed her like that. Both Gladion and Lily eventually ran away from Luminyte, both trying to protect the Pokemon subjected to torture or death. Gladion sustained himself by doing odd jobs for Guzma, and Lily sustained herself by working as Kukui's assistant. And when Luminyte finally found both of them, she discarded them, acknowledged that they were no longer children. Luminyte lost everything to the Wormholes, even her sanity, maybe even her life, depending on what happened in Kanto at the end of Standard Sun and Moon. Even sadder, at the end of Ultra Sun and Moon, Luminyte meets her husband again, the guy that runs Pokemilago, but he does not recognize her. Luminyte remains calm and chooses not to tell him who he really is. Instead, they have a friendly conversation, go their separate ways, and that's it. Gladion asks her why she didn't say anything. She simply says, well, if it is him, it isn't him anymore. Fucking sad. Gameplay wise, Usum is a pretty strong competitor. It's the first main series Pokemon game where Game Freak decided to experiment a little bit. Usum doesn't have gyms. Instead, you partake in something called the Island Challenge, where you go and collect Z crystals. Then after doing all of the island challenges on each island, you fight the Kahuna, which is said to be the strongest trainer on each island. Even if Z moves isn't as cool as Megas, you do get both Z moves and Megas. I know you only unlock them in the post game, but it's still cool nonetheless. Cinematics were new and welcome in my opinion, especially with scenes like this. Look, you can probably argue that any Pokemon game is the best in the series, except Scarlet and Violet. It can go fuck itself. I don't know. Sun and Moon was not perfect. There's a lot of critique for it, like the insane amount of unskippable cutscenes. How was annoying. People really fucking hate How. The twat. But Sun and Moon was more than just a game for me at the time. Reason for bias incoming. It was an escape. My escape. 13-year-old me gave up all of my friend groups because someone else needed him. 13-year-old me consciously felt infatuation for the first time and didn't know what to make of his feelings. 13-year-old me fell for a boy who could never reciprocate his feelings. 13-year-old me got told what he was before he could even understand it himself. 13-year-old me was the butt of the joke for an entire year. It's kind of ironic, being called the class fag while also being bullied for throwing myself at a random girl. A desperate attempt at trying to avoid the allegations. Allegations. But being defined as this weak, ugly, gay mess in the eyes of the person you trusted the most at the time. The person you fell for. Out in the world, I was a mess. Labeled as a fag, worthless, weird and nerdy. But in the world of Pokemon and Sun and Moon, there was adventure. I wasn't this thing nobody liked. I wasn't this thing I didn't even like. There was just adventure and endless fun and adventure. And endless fun and adventure. And endless fun and it. I played through Pokemon Sun and Ultra Sun at least 12 times each by now. It was my comfort game, my escape, how I coped with reality at the time. We all had something like that. Video games, hobbies, places, books, movies, maybe we still do. But I hold this one dearly. It's a part of me, for better or worse. It taught me something important though. It's emphasized in the story of Pokemon Usum that the real prize at the end of the Island Challenge, even at, throughout life, wasn't becoming the champion or really achieving your goals, but it's the bonds and friendships you've formed along the way. It's a cheesy and silly takeaway, but it's true. At least that's what I think. After year 7, I went to high school. I can still remember the first day, fearing for the worst after the dog shit year I had. It was slow in the beginning, but I started to drift apart from my best friend at the time. For the better. I can confidently say that now. He did unintentionally leave me an amazing parting gift. Just before we started fully drifting apart, he kind of introduced me to another group of his friends, which he ultimately left. Time passes and we grow closer, this friend group and me. And now I can confidently say that they are some of the closest people I know. These two dumb fucks especially. Go check them out. They're like family to me in some way. They're not the only ones, by the way. I have a few people that I can count in that list. You probably know who you are, but that brings me to my point about bonds and connections. At the end of the day, that's what really matters. Romantic or platonic, friendships or family, doesn't matter. The bonds we create are what makes our existence bearable. You know, I might never kiss a guy, achieve any goals, be or become anything worthwhile. I might never see the world, fall in love, live a happy life with a happy partner. I might never buy a house, live independently, raise a family of cats, and have a fulfilling career. I might never make friends here, develop new bonds, fulfill the empty loneliness in my heart. But I know that I have experienced love, have experienced the feeling of being safe in the eyes of the friends that care for me, being free of what and who I am, shamelessly. Friendships worth having, fulfilling enough that it's okay, that I might not ever have anything I desired to have and experience.